Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animated features not made by Disney. I'm your host, Dr. Animacias, and today I'm going to talk about something, I guess I wouldn't say simple, but it is something that, well, look, right now I'm kind of going through some things. There's a reason why there was no uploads for a bit there. Yeah, it's just a bit of a struggle, so I'm just trying to do something simple, and something simple came along. How many of you are familiar with Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator of Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack? He directed the first 3 Hotel Transylvania movies. He was involved with the recent one as well. And for the most part, those movies have been fun. I mean, they're not great, but the animation on them is top notch. It definitely has that style to them. What if I told you he was going to do a Popeye movie at one point? Now, if you're an animation fan, you probably already knew about the Popeye movie. It's never been a secret. They released a short clip of it years ago, basically showing like, okay, this is how you could have expected it to look like. And it looked pretty fun. It looked pretty neat. But for years, it was known that, like, okay, that was the only thing that we had. The movie was canceled. There was probably some concept art floating around. But as far as I know, it wasn't something that we knew much about because it was canceled. To my surprise, out of nowhere, someone actually leaked out a full 87-minute animatic of the Popeye movie that was canceled. And I'm not sure how much I could show. I probably can't show much, so I'm not gonna go showing a bunch of clips, but I'll see if anything, gets put up that doesn't create issues. I might put some things here and there. Of course, I won't put the full thing up, but yeah. So that was pretty amazing, and yeah, I sat down, I watched it, and yeah, we lost out on a pretty great movie. For most of you, you probably know Popeye as the guy who eats spinach, gets strong, beats up the bad guy Bluto, and gets the girl olive oil. And while that is generally the main idea, I know that Popeye did have his start in the comics. In fact, Popeye wasn't even the character that originally started it. I know it started as Thimble Theater or something like that. And then eventually Popeye joined in and basically he took over. For the most part, I don't have too much knowledge on the comics, so I'm not gonna pretend that I do. I just know, bits here and there. And for the most part, this movie is mostly taking inspiration from the shorts, from what I can tell. It does seem to have some stuff from the comics. At least I don't remember the character of the Sea Hag being prominent or even appearing at all in the shorts. If she did, I completely forgot. It's been years since I've even watched a lot of Popeye shorts. Most of the ones that I've watched as of late are pretty much like the Sinbad one, like the longer ones. But yeah, so you had that. The father, which I remember, like, okay, he did pop up every now and then, but, I guess he was more of a comic book character. And I know you see, like, Olive Oil's family, which I'm not sure if they're lifted straight from the comics or if they were originally made for this, because I know she does have a family in the comics. In the shorts, I don't remember seeing them if they ever appeared. So it definitely has its things here and there. For the most part, this is an origin story of Popeye, which I do think is kind of I wouldn't say like a full-on issue, but it does create some stuff where I'm like, I'm not too fond of that. Like, for the most part, Popeye being an orphan, don't really care about that. If being the driving force of the movie where he's trying to find his father, again, fine with that. It's cute. Meeting Olive Oil for the first time and then slowly, getting to know each other and love each other, that's fine. Bluto essentially being like the Gaston of the story, fine. Especially because for the most part, Bluto is actually barely in this movie. Like, he's just there for a few moments early on. You think he's going to play a bigger part because he eventually starts chasing after them, but he quickly stops after the Sea Hag pretty much scares him off. And from there, he's just pretty much just a comic, just there for comedic purposes. Yeah, like, it's just all origin stuff. They even give an origin to how he learns that he's gets stronger with spinach, which that is probably the part that I'm most iffy in. Just because they pretty much create this whole thing where it's like, oh, it's because of like some kind of magic when him and his father screwed over the sea witch that resulted in the spinach being imbued with this power to give Popeye specifically like super strength and stuff like that, which I'm like, I mean, I get why you would do that, but at the same time, I kind of like the stuff with the original shorts where it's just that spinach is just like that, because originally it was just to promote spinach, because it was believed that there were, it was stuff that would make you strong, so of course they made it cartoonishly super powered when it came to the shorts, but it turned out that wasn't true, so they were just promoting a lie, but, whatever, you do what you gotta do. On that front, I'm just like, I don't know, I kind of prefer that than, giving an explanation on why Popeye specifically gets stronger, but I don't know, I don't know how other people would feel like if other people found a way to solve it, because I know that with this being a leak, it's going to be taken down in a lot of places. I'm not going to say whether or not I saved a copy of it, but I will say that I at least know how to find it if I ever want to watch it again. It's an origin story, and with that, not sure if everyone's going to like it, or if everyone would have liked it, but I think it's for the most part fine. The story itself is pretty much like, Popeye is a kid, he's all alone, no one wanted to adopt him, even Bluto is adopted because he's apparently like the town favorite. Again, he's like Gaston, and it's funny how they even play that up, because even as a baby, Bluto had like the beard and everything, so it's like, are you sure people like this kid? But whatever, it's cute. He tries to marry Olive Oil, obviously she's not into it, but at the same time, she's gotta be like, oh, well, she's like the town special girl or whatever, so she has to follow like these, like the general thing that people expect out of her. So it's kind of like Belle, only if Belle kind of accepted that, her role in society. You get this whole thing with Popeye meeting up with Jeep, the little yellow weird jaguar character, and they don't try to tone it down. He's just as weird as he was in the old cartoons. And that's actually one of the things that I liked about this movie, going back to animatics, is that a lot of it is exactly as weird as you'd remember it being in the old cartoons. Like the animation, like granted, you don't really see much of the animation, so you only have to go by what you see here and what was showcased in that test footage. It's very cartoony, like, it's very much like, Popeye has a boat that has legs on it, so that sometimes it can go faster, sometimes it could stop, the legs literally break are like brakes for the boat at times. Sometimes the boat literally cuts through water, it's just stuff like that, and it's cool. Pretty much Popeye has like this gem that will pretty much showcase where his father is at, but it turns out that that's also the sea witch's, the sea hag's eye, so she's chasing after it because she's getting uglier and losing her powers, every minute that she doesn't have it. So with it being over a decade, just imagine how bad it is for her. And yeah, Popeye eventually, tries, using it to find his father. Problem is that Bluto steals it from him and gives it to Olive Oil as a way to, propose to her. So Popeye ends up taking Olive Oil just so he can go on this adventure, but promises that he'll leave her someplace as long as she gives him his, his gem, because he's pretty much like, look, it's nice that he gave it to you as a proposal thing, but, it was really mine to begin with. From there, shenanigans happen, and I'm going to spoil this because, one, it was never made, and two, there's no guarantee that any of you are ever going to watch it. I hope you guys, get around to it, but with it being a leaked animatic and not something that was actually made, no guarantee. So yeah, he pretty much takes her, and, at first it's the whole struggle of like, oh, she doesn't like him. She doesn't want to be there. She just wants to go back to live her normal life. But after some adventuring, she realizes that she would like to be right there, because at some point they go underwater, and it's kind of cute because Popeye uses like eels to basically swim around, because he's, it's like the whole mermaid thing, like he literally puts his feet in the eels, rescues Olive Oil while she's getting thrown around, and she fights back, because they of course updated this to have Olive be a little more active, which I'm fine with. That's actually a neat change. Of course, like I said, Bluto tries to go after her, but quickly stops when the sea hag approaches him, and he just basically rats them out. And he just decides to stay in the middle of the ocean so that he doesn't look like a coward. And along the way, more adventures happen. At some point, there's Sky Pirates, which is basically the scene that's you see from like the test footage, where there's a bunch of guys fighting for Olive, and that's mainly because they just want to get the the jewel. Like, at first it's just like, oh, we're just trying to make some riches, but then they realize, like, oh wait, this is the sea hag's jewel eye or whatever, so we can get a lot of money from her if we take it. Popeye and Olive Oil, of course, bond as they try to get it back, and there's this great scene where Olive Oil tries to sneak in as like a pirate girl just to get the attention, but then it's Popeye who also dresses up as a girl, and even she calls it out, like, why did you need to do that? We already have a girl here. Gets the jewel back because the pirate, finds him more attractive as a girl, so that's kind of funny. And that's the whole thing with the movie, is that apparently, it's the whole, like, oh, Popeye's ugly and whatnot, which, again, that's one thing that I'm like, I'm not sure how people will feel like about it. I was kind of mixed towards it, but by the end, it kind of won me over just because of the message about accepting who you are, even though, again, Popeye, basically being all like, oh, I'm ugly, one-eyed, and, people hate me because I'm ugly. I don't know, not a thing that everyone's gonna like, but, I thought it was fine for how they handled it. So, of course, they bond, they eventually do find the place where the father is supposed to be at, but twist upon twist, the sea hag is there waiting for them after, getting some information, and she takes the jewel. Popeye is able to get it back out, but quickly realizes that, okay, so it took me to that place, my father wasn't there, so clearly I'm alone, and everything's bad, and it's the whole breakup scene, and yeah, it's generic, but at the same time it works, because it's like, look, he just kind of found out the worst news possible, and just got reminded of how lonely he is. I understand that that's no excuse for him to do something stupid, but at the same time, you have to understand that when people don't, fully understand of what's going on, and, of course, feel lonely, they might make the worst decisions possible just to feel like everything's right. Like, just keep on hurting themselves. So I don't mind that he turns Olive Oil away and basically tells her to just be the generic, town girl, whatever, that she was supposed to be. Even though by that point, Olive, of course, doesn't want to be that anymore. She wants to adventure with Popeye. So, things happen. Eventually, Popeye comes to his senses, decides to go rescue Olive in the town, while Bluto is, being a coward. Which I do like that instead of waiting for Popeye to show up to stop the wedding, Olive eventually is like, you know what, no, I'm going to stand up for myself. I don't care, if Popeye's here or not. And she's the one that says no on the wedding. The sea hag, of course, shows up. You get your Popeye action. Popeye finally realizes after multiple attempts, because throughout the movie, there's little bits of him eating spinach on accident and, getting just super strength. But he finally realizes, like, wait a second, spinach is what gives me strength. So, of course, he takes that, beats the sea hag. The sea hag, of course, is crying because she's lost everything. And Popeye, of course, realizes, like, look, to be fair, this jewel thing was actually hers to begin with all along, because she's the one that had it as her eyes, is that I had it because my father got it for me. And, what's right is right and what's fair is fair. He gives her the jewel eye. Out of that kindness, the sea hag decides to locate Popeye's father. They reunite, and, it's all cute, it's all happy. It ends with Popeye punching out Bluto, and the end. Fairly standard story, but, I think for a lot of it was carried by a lot of the charm of the characters. I don't know if there was any plans to get celebrities to do this, because, of course, with this being an animatic, it was just voice actors. Like, I noticed, of course, Tom Kenny, I believe Greg Griffin was Olive Oil. I could be wrong, but I did hear her a few times, I'm pretty sure. And, it was just stuff like that where you'd hear different people. I think Genny Tartakovsky did a few voices, but I'm not entirely sure. With this being a leak, it's not like they were even credited. But it is a very neat movie, and it's one that I'm like, I wish they had done this. I know the common thing that people say is that it's the Emoji Movie that screwed us over. I don't know if that's entirely true, just because, at least from what I've heard, it was more of a rights issue with the estate than it was with them trying to rush out the Emoji Movie. Them rushing it out was a result of this being canceled, but I'm not entirely sure, to be quite honest, if that's true or not. But regardless of whether or not it was because of the estate that wanted the rights back, or if it was the Emoji Movie that really screwed it over, we lost out on something special. It kind of reminds me of something like Moana, only I think this was a little bit more fun because it was, more like a classic cartoon. And I get it. Some of the emotional stuff in Moana might appeal more to a lot of other people. I like that stuff in Moana, but I just feel like it's always nice to see this classic stuff come back in one way or another. And it at least in that regard made it feel like more of an adventure-focused movie. So, I don't know. I thought, if we had gotten it complete, it would have been nice to see if it would have been the better movie or not. I don't want to fully say it right now just because, aside from some minor issues, there is some pop culture references here, but none of it really hurts it. I mean, I know this was from the test footage where Olive says it's raining men because all the sky pirates are coming down, and I thought that was fine. But then there's stuff like characters mentioning like McDonald's in terms of locations, and I'm like, I mean, it's not the worst, but it's also not something that I would really be proud of. Point being is that I don't know. I thought the movie worked out fine. The reason why I don't want to fully judge it on whether or not it's better than this or that, other than because one, I'm not too big on doing the whole comparison thing. I mean, not everything's a competition. I don't know why people love obsessing over like, oh, is this one better than this movie? Like, look, unless you're specifically asking me, I don't want to think about that while I'm praising one thing. Like, I don't want to just praise one thing to shit on another thing, unless that there's a specific reason. But the other reason is that because since it is just an animatic, who knows how much of this would have been in the finished product. It could have been the finished product. It looks like, just looking at it, it feels like a finished story. But of course, you never know if along the way they might have realized like, okay, that finished thing is not a great idea. Let's change it up a bit, or maybe some jokes here and there don't really land. I know there's a whole running thing with a fish getting eaten by a pelican, which I thought was a pretty funny gag, but sometimes the dialogue on that was kind of annoying. But for the most part, that's my general thing, is like, with this not being a finished movie, who knows how much of it would have been exactly as we saw it here. But for what it's worth, definitely a fun time. If you can find it somewhere, give it a watch. If you're anyone I know and ask me to show it to you, I mean, I'll try to find it, but, I'll likely find it, but, you never know. Point being, yeah, it's a fun thing, and I just wanted to talk about it just because it's a very unique find. It's not often that you find a complete canceled movie to witness, and plus, I thought it was a simple thing just to do while I'm going through some tough things. Hopefully, I can get back to a more regular schedule, and yeah, I just want to say thank you for listening. This has been Octaviano Macias, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you for coming on and listening to me today. If you enjoyed it, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow my podcast. It's on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you want to support me even more, there's always the option of Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support artists, and with that, you can always put in $1 or even more. It's all up to you, all just to help produce the show and other things I may do. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in the coming future.